the eyes in the dark. For a few terrifying seconds, everything was black. My flashlight had gone out. The only thing I could see was a pair of pale white eyes. They didn't blink. They didn't move. They simply watched me. I hit the flashlight against my palm. Once, twice. On the third hit, the light flickered back to life. The eyes were gone. The basement looked empty again. But I knew something had been standing there. The footsteps followed. I turned toward the stairs. It was time to leave. The moment I took my first step, another footstep echoed behind me. I stopped. The sound stopped. I walked again. Another step followed. Slow, perfectly matching my pace. I spun around. Nothing. Only darkness. I kept walking. Step, step, step. And behind me, step, step, step. Whatever it was following me, without ever showing itself. The prayer room. Near the staircase, I noticed a narrow wooden door. It hadn't been there before. Carved into it were 3 words. Do not enter. The handle slowly turned by itself. The door creaked open. Inside was a tiny prayer room. An old candle burned in the center. That made no sense. No one had been here for years. On the wall, someone had written the same sentence, over and over. It only leaves when you look away, hundreds of times, as if someone had gone mad writing it. Then, the candle went out. The room fell into complete darkness. Something touched me. I backed away from the prayer room. My breathing became faster. Then, I felt it. A cold hand, resting gently on my shoulder. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Very slowly, another hand touched my other shoulder. Something leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Don't turn around." The voice wasn't threatening. It sounded almost protective. Before I could react, a deafening church bell echoed through the building. Boom! The basement shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. The whisper disappeared. Both hands were gone. Then I heard something running above me, inside the church. Not walking. Running. Fast. As if dozens of people had suddenly entered the building, and every one of them was heading toward the last pew. The sound above, the footsteps overhead multiplied. Not one person, not 2, dozens, running across the old wooden floor. The sound echoed through the ceiling, as if an entire congregation had just entered the church. Then, everything stopped at the exact same moment. Silence, the kind of silence that makes your ears ring. I tightened my grip on the flashlight and climbed the basement stairs. The congregation! I slowly pushed open the basement door. The church looked different. Every pew was occupied. Men, women, children, all dressed in faded black clothing. None of them moved. None of them spoke. They sat perfectly still, with their heads lowered. There had to be at least 50 people. But when I looked at the floor, there were no footprints. No dust had been disturbed. It was as if they had never walked in. They had simply appeared. They all looked up. I took one careful step. The floor creaked. Every head in the church lifted at the same time, slowly, mechanically. Their faces were pale. Their eyes were completely white. No pupils, no emotion, no life. Every single one of them was staring directly at me. Not blinking, not breathing, just watching. Then, without opening their mouths, they all whispered together, "You're late." The voices echoed from every corner of the church. It sounded like hundreds, speaking through a single throat. The last pew. My eyes drifted toward the back of the church. The last pew was empty. For the first time all night, relief washed over me. Then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Every person inside the church was looking past me. Not at me. Behind me. I didn't need to turn around. I already knew. The thing that had been sitting in the last pew was no longer there. It was standing. Right behind me. A cold breath brushed against my neck. Then, a deep voice whispered, "My seat is empty. Sit." The church bell exploded with another violent ring. The congregation slowly stood up together, one by one, without taking their eyes off me, and then they all took a single step forward. The missing rule. The congregation stood frozen. No one blinked. No one breathed. They simply waited. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the folded sheet Samuel had given me. My hands trembled as I unfolded it. The paper still listed the same 7 rules. Nothing had changed. Then, without warning, dark letters slowly began appearing beneath the last rule. The ink spread across the page by itself, as if an invisible hand was writing. A new sentence formed. Rule 8. If the last pew is ever empty, never take the empty seat. I stared at the words. They hadn't been there before. Slowly, the ink began to drip like fresh blood. "The real caretaker," a voice echoed from the church entrance. "Ryan." This time, and it was different. Stronger. Real. The front doors burst open. A cold wind swept through the church. Standing in the doorway was Samuel. He looked exhausted. His clothes were torn. His face was covered in dirt. He raised an old wooden cross, then shouted, "Don't listen to them! They're trying to make you take the seat." The congregation slowly turned toward him, every pale face twisted with anger. Then, they all smiled. The truth about the church. Samuel never took his eyes off me. His voice shook. This church was never abandoned. It was sealed. Years ago. Something came here, and it needed someone to watch it. Every night watchman had one job. Keep the last pew occupied. So it couldn't. I felt my stomach drop. So it couldn't. What? Samuel looked toward the empty seat, then quietly answered, "Stand." The church fell silent. Every head slowly turned toward the last pew. Something invisible was beginning to sit down. The wood creaked, but there was no one there. The choice. Samuel reached his hand toward me. "Run!" Before I could move, the invisible force exploded from the last pew. Every candle went out. The stained glass windows shattered. The congregation screamed, not in fear, in celebration. The thing behind me whispered one final sentence. "Your 7 nights have only just begun." Then, the church doors slammed shut by themselves. The locks clicked, one by one. And from somewhere deep beneath the floor, a loud church bell began ringing again. Not once, not twice, but over and over, without stopping. The locked church. The doors slammed shut with a deafening crash. Every lock clicked into place, one after another. I ran toward the entrance and grabbed the iron handle. It wouldn't move. I threw my shoulder against the door. Nothing. It felt like I was trying to push against solid rock. Behind me, the congregation stood perfectly still, watching, waiting. Then, all at once, they took another step toward me. "Samuel's last warning." Samuel grabbed my arm. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. "Listen to me carefully. It can't leave this church. Unless someone takes its place." I stared at him. "What are you talking about?" He looked toward the last pew. For decades, every night watchman believed he was protecting the church. The truth is, they were protecting the world outside, If the last seat is ever left empty until sunrise, it walks out. A chill ran through my entire body. The man in the last pew. A shadow slowly formed in the empty seat. At first, it looked like smoke. Then, it became a person. A man wearing an old security guard's uniform. His face looked strangely familiar. As he raised his head, my heart stopped. It was me, not someone who looked like me. It was my face, my eyes, my voice. He smiled, then quietly said, "I've been waiting for you." Without standing up, he pointed toward the church doors. "They'll never open until one of us stays." Sunrise was still hours away. I looked at my watch. 1:08 a.m. There were still hours until sunrise. The congregation slowly surrounded the pews. The church bell continued ringing somewhere above us. Samuel stepped in front of me, holding the old wooden cross with both hands. Then he whispered, "When the bell stops, don't believe anything you see." The ringing suddenly ended. Complete silence filled the church. A second later, someone knocked gently on the front door. Knock, knock, knock. Then a woman's voice came from outside. Soft, warm, familiar. "Ryan?" It was my mother's voice. The problem was, my mother had died 5 years earlier.